Hello, Karen. I am so thrilled to see you on this Friday. It's only a few days before this is going live, and people are going to love this because talking to Megy today was incredible. I think they're going to love her book.
I agree. So many actionable things about things that you and I talk about all the time. I feel like
Yes.
it is a collection of our 4 years of, well, scientifically backed our 4 years of nonsense because we are not scientific in any way.
Totally. But it's like the perfect pairing for people who love talking about mental health, hearing us every single week about mental health. Karydes, nope, messed that up. What is it? I I'm sorry, Megy. You told me how to pronounce your last name, and I'm gonna get it right.
Greatest.
Karydes, Megy Karydes. She came out with a book recently called 50 Ways to More Calm, Less Stress, Scientifically Proven Ways to Relieve Anxiety and Boost Your Mental Health Using Your Five Senses. The thing I loved most about this topic was, I mean, it's really cool that she gives so many awesome tips. And I really do think that people are going to like literally take the book and then like go implement them. A lot of the stuff that she even talks about on the pod today are really things that people can just like end the conversation with us, the conversation that they're having in their mind. They're not actually gonna get it, but then like go do the stuff. So it's like, it's very, like you said, it's very, very actionable. And I also love that she uses your five senses because it's like very much of a like holistic way of thinking about mental health, I think.
Exactly. And these are all free things,
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yes.
right? Like go for a walk, smell the flowers when you're outside. Like these are all, none of these are things that you have to have a therapist for. None of these are things that like are going to cost you a ton of money. Maybe the floating, I don't know. But yeah, I appreciate that like mixed in there are also things that like we can all just be doing all the time, integrating into our days all the time.
Yes. And it's like you and I talk about what helps us all the time. So why not have extra input? Why not have extra things? So thank you, Megy. And for everyone who wants to know more about Megy, you can find her on her website. She's also on Instagram. She's also on Twitter. We're gonna have all of those links in the show notes. But just a little teeny tiny intro, and then I really want to hear everything about you, Karen, is that Megy is a longtime journalist. She lives in San Francisco, or excuse no, she doesn't. She lives in Chicago. Chicago. The reason why I got confused was because I met her when I lived in Chicago. And so she writes about health and wellness, lifestyle, travel, home topics. Her work is in National Geographic, The Tribune, The Atlantic. And she's really, really awesome. I really like her. And we have some friends in common. And it was just so much fun to chat with her. I'll also link a Reader's Digest piece that she wrote about decluttering and why that's a mental health hack in the notes.
Y'all, you were in for a treat. And Katie, at the top, I also meant to say happy Beyonce Day.
Wait, what? Oh my gosh, her album dropped today. Yes?
Cowboy Carter came out at 12 a.m., 12:01 a.m., whatever time today. And it is killing me that I've only listened to one song.
Wait, really? Oh my god, I have not listened to any. Well, I mean, I obviously know Texas Hold'em.
Yes, and 16 Carriages.
Yes. But honestly, I'm so excited to hear this. I'm so excited for Beyonce. Is that weird to say? Like, I'm just happy for her.
I
Like, I
know.
really am.
You know what? I feel like I get it because one of the things I think is like both probably very authentic and also very savvy is that like her framing for this is that, and she posted this on Instagram, I guess 10 days ago. It is in the story that we have about this at 19thnews.org that she posted on Instagram that like this album grew out of her experience of feeling unwelcome in a space. And I knew nothing about this, but so she has this country song called Daddy Lessons. And in 2016, she performed Daddy Lessons with the Chicks at the CMAs, at the Country Music Awards.
Yes.
And oh my, you can just, I just want you to imagine 2016, Beyonce, the Chicks, CMAs. No. Social media backlash, people saying crazy shit, people in the audience being rude, like all kinds of shit, right? And so you're fucking Beyonce and you go to an award show and people are shitty to you. What? So I love it because I feel like it was this vulnerability, and I feel like it's also like, yeah, now we're all just like, yeah. So sorry that happened to you, Beyonce. Get it,
Yes.
girl, right? Like it's genius. I like I said, it's real, and it also I feel like gets us all like fired up to root for her.
It does. It gets us fired up to root for her. I love that so much that she was that vulnerable because I saw that Instagram post when she talked about how I don't remember, and I'm not going to say it correctly because I don't have the exact quote, but like about how she had never experienced something like that in her life. Like it was so extreme what she
Oh yeah.
experienced. And it's like, I'm so grateful that she is willing to say that publicly. That's a lot because like she's calling out a very
Oh yeah.
specific group. Like it's like the chicks, the people who are supporting the chicks, like all of that stuff. And it's like I also just love that she like I think potentially some people who experience something, 8 years ago might be like, oh, well, it was a different time and da. Fuck that, not Beyonce.
No.
She's like, hell to the no. I am going to make this right and everyone's gonna know about it. So fuck y'all, because that makes me love her even more.
I know. I know. And schooling everybody about the origins of country music. Like, you know what, assholes? You wouldn't have this music genre. It would not exist without me and
Yes.
my ancestors. Like, country music is rooted in the music of enslaved people in this country, period. And it got marketed to white Americans, rural white Americans, but country music is Black music. And I just love that Beyonce had that experience. It was just like, oh, I'm sorry. Hold my cowboy hat. I'm about to school all you fuckers and like chart on your. I also love that. Yeah, she's charting on the country music. She's got
Yes.
Dolly Parton and Willie Nelson on this album. Oh my God.
I
Incredible. I love it.
This is just the best ever. It really, really is. Like there is just never not a reason to celebrate Beyonce. That was a lot of negatives. There's always a reason to celebrate Beyonce. I can always get behind being out of my mind excited to celebrate Queen Bee.
Okay, so I will tell you, I'm just looking at here are the songs I'm excited to listen to, and I can't believe I haven't listened to already. There's a cover of Blackbird, which is my favorite Beatles
Oh,
song.
wow.
There's a cover of Jolene. Oh God, I can't. It's like I'm gonna come out of my skin. Yeah. I mean, also there are also people on this album who I like. Miley Cyrus, okay, fine, yeah. Post Malone, yeah, right. Like she's
Yeah.
got a lot of people on here. There's Linda Martell is on here. Linda Martell is like the first Black woman to chart in. I think she's the first Black woman to write a number one song. I gotta check my history, but I feel like she goes into the history, and I love it
I love it
already.
so much. She's such an incredible, I don't know, trailblazer is not the right term. Like it's like when it's like every single thing she does moves the culture forward. Like she is actually genuinely moving the culture forward. Like it's just, and this is always like this is
Yep.
not just this album or Renaissance. Like this is, yeah. Wow. Okay, so happy Beyonce Day. That makes me so happy. I
Happy
seriously am
Cowboy
gonna.
Carter Day.
Yes, happy Cowboy Carter Day. I cannot wait to listen to the album. I love knowing that there are covers of those classic songs too. Like that's so cool.
Yeah. Oh
Wow.
man.
Wow. I don't really know how to segue this, but I was going to tell you about my Easter plans. And P.S. I never have Easter plans. I actually forget most of the time that it's Easter. I am not a religious person. And so I usually get a phone call from my mom that's like, Happy Easter. What are you doing for Easter? And I'm like, it's Easter. Like what? Like what
Yeah.
month is it? It's just not at all. So we have this group. Tyler and I have this group of friends that is so great, and they we've really gotten into game nights with them. So we've had multiple game nights with them. They're really really fun. And we were having a game night with them a couple weeks ago, and they were like, "Hey, when should we get together again? Should we have like a daytime game night? Because none of like most of them don't drink, and like Tyler and I don't really
Mm.
drink as much as we used to, and like." And so we're like, oh, we could have a brunch thing. And they're like, why don't we have it on Easter? And I was like, perfect. So we're having a waffle party. It's a Belgian waffle party, and we're calling it Yeaster, even though I don't think there's any yeast in waffles, but you get it. Creative license. And yeah, I'm super excited. I don't know if I told you about this, but we had a waffle party a couple weeks ago with other friends, and it was so much fun. And like, I make all these different types of waffles. I have a Belgian waffle maker. When you and MLB visit, I will be, if you're interested, making you as many waffles as your heart desires. There's but oh, do you like waffles? I don't know.
Uh, MLB loves waffles. Kind of like pancakes, waffles, French toast.
Yes.
I mean, because they're your waffles, Katie, I'm obviously going to enjoy them. Let's be clear about that.
I would make them for MLB any day. So like that would be great. But that's our plan for Easter. What about you?
I love that. Oh, happy Easter.
Yes, happy Easter.
Hilarious.
Oh,
On Easter, I will be driving to beautiful Sheffield, Alabama.
oh
Yes, I
yes,
will.
that's right. To see your family.
That's right. Yep. So I'm trying to be excited about it. Here's the thing that's exciting. I mean, I'm excited to see my family, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love them.
Yeah.
Excited. Great. Okay. Um, I am staying at an Airbnb in beautiful Tuscambia, Alabama.
Oh, this is new. No Clarion
Yes.
Inn.
No clearing. And I just gotta break this up, right? Like
Okay.
I can't, oh my God. And it's like Airbnb, of course, they have all these marketing things, right? And it's just like, this is a rare find
Oh,
because I don't remember what it's called, some like faux Santa Fe name. It's themed, it's like a Santa Fe themed loft in Tuscumbia, Alabama.
this is so exciting. I cannot wait for a full report, Karen. Okay, wait. Are there chilies hanging from the windows in the kitchen? Are there like, like Southwest style tiles? Are I just keep thinking of like maybe a skull of a like a
Oh,
steer,
right.
right?
I'm not really entirely sure. I booked this trip in a fever dream. I will admit that. And so I almost don't want to go look up the description because I almost want to be surprised. Like, what did I get myself into?
I mean, hopefully there will be lots of turquoise. Like that would be very exciting. I love that you booked it in a fever dream. So, yes, hopefully it'll be
Oh
great.
God. I really there's a pool, there's a communal pool. I think it's like this loft space that I'm staying in, and then there's a house that's also an Airbnb, and
Okay.
they're on the same property, and there's like a community pool. I will not be getting in the pool, to be
Okay.
clear.
Got it.
Though it is going to be in the 80s in Alabama next week.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
I know.
Oh,
Um, so
so
yeah, I
fun.
I really I'm looking forward to it, slash like what am I doing? We'll see.
Yeah, I
Slash
hope it's okay. I mean, I hope that the drive is easeful and
you.
relaxing and yeah, an Easter drive south.
Right.
I bet there
Exactly.
won't be that many people on the road on us. Maybe. I don't know. I
On
mean, that's not to
Easter.
say that everyone celebrates Easter, so of course.
Yeah, I really my my new like goalpost or like I have arrived on all of these trips. It used to be that there was this rocket at the rest stop. I think I've mentioned this before, right? The Welcome Center in Alabama used to have a rocket in it. They're doing repairs to it, so I don't have a rocket. And now all I
Oh,
have is Bucky's. I know the rocket's not there.
that's so sad. Wait, what's Bucky's? Is Bucky's a
Oh, wait.
barbecue place?
Have we not talked about Bucky's on this
No.
podcast?
What is
Wait, surely we've
Bucky's?
talked about Bucky's.
Oh.
Y'all, this is not sponsored. If you know, you know. Okay, Katie, I'm going to make this as quick as possible because I don't want to sound like a commercial, but Bucky's started off in Texas as a gas station,
Okay.
except it is a Texas gas station. And so the one in Athens, Alabama that I stop at has 160 gas pumps.
Wait.
It's basically a mall. Bucky's is a mall.
Okay, I'm actually struggling with the mental image of 160 gas pumps. Like we're talking about acres and acres of gas pumps.
I mean, there's like, if you think about it, there's like four at a little thing, right?
Okay.
Like
Yeah, but
you,
still.
right. But no, but still, no, it's absurd. It's like the Matrix. When the guns show up in the Matrix, it's like that. Like it's just
Oh
these rows
my
and rows of gas
gosh.
pumps.
Is
But
Bucky's
then,
its own township? Like it has its own zip code.
I mean, in Athens, Alabama, it probably does.
Wow.
So here's their claim to fame that they have the cleanest bathrooms on any interstate.
Oh, okay. That's a good claim to fame.
So my cousin and I, when we drove down to Alabama last summer, we literally held it from Indiana and Louisville, respectively, so that we could go to the bathroom at the Bucky's in
I
Athens, Alabama.
respect the shit out of that. I mean, having a bad bathroom experience at some random ass rest stop, it can ruin your day. Waiting for Bucky's toilets is a number one. Like that sounds great to me. It honestly does.
I okay, this is the last thing I'll say. They also have a ton of food there.
Oh, this
Like
place sounds
Bucky's.
amazing.
Oh my God. Bucky's, like Bucky's branded food. And every time I go there, what reminded me of it is that every time I go, I get the brisket. I know you're a
Nice.
vegetarian, but it's freaking delicious. And I'm gonna
Wow.
have Easter brisket at Bucky's.
This is a whole situation. Like, I need to look this up. I wonder, I'm sure they have a website. But back to the
Yeah.
bathrooms. Do you find that the bathrooms are like really incredible? Like, do they have like some fake flowers in there? Is it like nice smelling? Is there like a live, laugh, love sign? Like, is there anything anything of the sort? I don't know if that would even be Bucky worthy, maybe that's just beneath Bucky's.
Oh man. Whew, there's a lot of live, laugh, love merchandise, I will tell you, at the Bucky's. I'm not gonna lie. They are not always, in my experience, they have not always been the cleanest.
Okay.
However, they have the fanciest stalls. Like the stall doors are like full length, floor to ceiling.
I love
You are
that.
like in your own like little room to
Ooh,
yourself. It is a singular bathroom experience. I will give them that.
I love that. The
Yeah.
only time that I've ever had a full door is when
Yeah.
I used to have, this is, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but like basically in San Francisco, I had multiple running routes that would
Oh.
go by the four-star hotels. And then I act like I walk into the four-star hotel, like a Ritz or Four Seasons, whatever it is, and they don't know that I'm not going to they don't know that I'm not staying there. So I just use their beautiful, gorgeous bathrooms with their full length floor to ceiling doors. So basically, it was a Four Seasons or a Ritz. That's what it sounds like to me.
I want to adjust anybody's expectations who's been to a Four Seasons or a Ritz. That is the best hack ever. I mean, yeah, rolling into a nice hotel lobby to use their bathroom,
No one's going to stop
amazing.
you, truly. Like it's, and if they did, that would, well, actually, that's not true. There's one time that someone stopped me at this place called the Argonaut, which is a very nice, the brand is Joie de Vivre, and it's a very nice hotel in Fisherman's Wharf, but they can go fuck themselves because they did not want me to use their bathroom. And I just lied and I was like, yeah, I'm staying here with my family. I'm on the fourth floor. And they're like, okay. And I was like, they have really nice bathrooms, but they're the only nice bathrooms in all of Fisherman's Wharf. Trust me, I know. Like it's
I also have stayed in Fisherman's Wharf and can, yes, plus one.
yes.
Oh,
Whew.
I don't know how we got here.
I don't either, but I love it. I mean, I could totally have an entire podcast episode about public restrooms. I have a lot to say. There's a lot. It's not all negative. There are good things.
Coming up next week.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
exactly. We have next week. This is perfect. I can't wait to hear how it goes at Bucky's. I am really excited for you and the brisket and the 168 what is it? Pumps. I mean, that's actually really impressive. Yeah, that's hard for me to
they
imagine.
they are a national chain that is rapidly expanding, and so coming to an interstate near you, Bucky's.
Wow. Get
Yeah.
excited. That's amazing. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to our intro. You have a whole nother podcast, well, a whole second half of this podcast to get excited about. We really, really hope you enjoy our conversation with Megy. And yeah, we will see you soon. Where is wrong with my recording? Pause, stop. Anyway, back to that. Enjoy, Megy. Hello, Megy Karydes. Thank you so much for being here. This is so, so, so exciting.
Hi, thanks everybody. I feel like I'm addressing an audience.
Yes, I mean you are of thousands. You should know,
Yes.
Thousands, 1 billion people actually listen to this podcast. So, yes.
including the entire Tampa Bay airport.
Yes,
Sometimes
exactly.
Thank you guys for having me on. This is really exciting.
Oh, Megy, it's so wonderful to see you. And for listeners, so Megy is this incredible, I know we just had the intro, but Megy is this incredible writer based in Chicago that I've known for many years. And today you get to meet the incredible Karen Hawkins. And yeah, it's
Woo-hoo!
just, we're so excited to have you here to discuss your book. And I think I want to just dive right in. So, like, I had read the press release about your book, and it said something around, like, you had a quote in there about having 32 tabs open in your brain and kind of like this whole concept around we are all holding so much right now. We have been for a long time. Can you talk a little bit about like that concept and also the impetus for this book. Like, is that actually what kind of brought you to this book?
Yeah, so it was the impetus for the book, and it's strange that you say that because I think there's like 32 tabs open on my desktop right now. Um, so I don't know what that says about me, but um, I I will say that is the reason the book kind of started um in my head is because I was overwhelmed with how many tabs were on my screen and they were translating into my head. And it gets to the point where you take in so many things. And this is also part of where we are as a society and our culture right now with our notifications constantly dinging and constantly like demanding our attention. I'm like, okay, I can't handle this anymore. I cannot handle this anymore. And I started looking at ways to reduce my overall anxiety around what was going on in the world at the time. And there was just so many things going on. And I know, like, just even politically, but also I just like, I couldn't handle it all. So I started looking at ways to try to calm my body and my mind because what I realized is that I was manifesting things in my like my shoulders was coming into my head and vice versa. I was like, it was just too much in my head. And so my whole body started like reacting. And so I just started kind of looking at ways to calm my body and mind. And that's literally how it started. I just started practicing certain things and I was sharing some ideas with some of my friends. Um, and that's it became a book. It really COVID for all intents and purposes, which is not a good thing. I'm not advocating for COVID, but it really did force our whole like country, our whole world to kind of just shut down for a little bit. And it gave me some time to experiment with some stuff that I wouldn't have had the time to do otherwise. So that's how the book kind of started. I'll can I give you one example of one thing that so
Please, please.
one of the things that I was talking with my I have an amazing mental health therapist. And she and I were talking and I am one of those people who really do suffer from winter seasonal blues, the seasonal affective disorder. And one of the things that she had recommended to me is to kind of come up with this winter wellness toolkit. And I'm like, okay, well, what does this look like? And she's like, well, have you ever considered a light therapy lamp? And I'm like, why would a lamp do anything? It made no sense to me. It was like a lamp, right? I could turn on the lights in my house. So I'm like, fine, you know what? This is like the second person who had recommended that to me. So I went and I bought one that's like literally the size of my desktop. It's huge. And then I bought a portable one because I didn't know what to buy. I just decided to get both and we'll see what happens. So I got the big one. And in the mornings, I would turn it on. I would drink my coffee. I would journal because I always journal. It's my morning pages, my form of meditation. And it worked. It worked. The light therapy lamp really did actually work. So I'm like, what magic is this? So that was actually the start of how the book started. Is because I started like, why does this work? And I did the research, and that's why it's scientific. The book's title is 50 Ways to More Calm, Less Stress. That's the big title, but it continues to scientifically proven ways, right? So the science was important to me because I didn't want it to just be anecdotal. I wanted to understand the why. And I learned that basically a light therapy lamp mimics sunlight, natural sunlight. So then the lumens are basically the same kind of what you would normally get from sunlight. And because I need that for that vitamin D, that sun to give me life, so to speak, in the morning, it carries throughout the rest of the day. So my kids are happy because I'm not murdering. I don't want to murder them anymore in the winter. But in truth, it's like, oh my God, this really works. So then I started telling my friends, and my friend was like, you know, I've been hearing about this, but I don't know if I should try this. So I'm like, well, I have a portable one. I can give you my portable one. So then it became an ongoing joke among my friends. This portable lamp started kind of making the rounds in my friend community. So they would take it for like a couple of weeks. And one of them actually, she gave it back to me. And she's like, you know, I really liked it. And it was fine. But you know who really benefited was my husband, who is the teacher for high school students because she would turn it on in the morning for breakfast. He would be there too. And he's like, oh, I really enjoy this. So then she ended up giving it back to me and buying her own. And then my other friend's like, well, I want to try it. So then I'm like, here. So, and that's kind of how the book really, there was no rhyme or reason. It was really more like, what are some things that we can do that might help us, that are not super hard to do, you know?
Ooh, yes. All right. You are speaking our language.
Like,
We love this. Because I mean, it's so much, right?
am I shipping you a portable light therapy lamp, Karen?
I mean, I have a ring light and I do have
Okay.
one of those. I do have one of those lights and I don't know. I couldn't get into it, but it was not like
Okay.
monitor sized,
Yeah,
I will
yeah.
say. So that could be different. I mean, now it's going to be spring. It is spring. It's going to be spring
Yeah.
question mark. So, but I mean, I might
It'll
take
go in
you up.
my basement.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
it'll go in my basement until like daylight savings time starts again, like in the November, and I'll bring it back up.
exactly. Oh my God. Oh, I don't even want to think about it. Like,
Yeah.
one of the things I love about this concept, of course, is that it's about getting back into our bodies. And I think we get so disconnected from our bodies for a million different reasons, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like you described, looking at a box all day long is sitting at a desk is like not the thing we're supposed to be doing. Trauma takes us out of our bodies, like so many things. And I just love that idea of identifying the ways that you have disconnected from your body and how to reconnect and do things that are
Yeah.
helpful. So I don't know if you can talk about that a little bit, like what are some ways that we know that we catch ourselves when we realize that we're disconnected? Like, how do we know when to do these things in the book, these amazing ideas?
Oh, that's a great question. And so here's the other part of the book. God, the title of the book, by the way, is like 1,000 words long. And part of the reason is because the publisher did some SEO market research, and that's why they decided it has to be like literally everything, right? And so part of the title of the book also is like using your five senses at the end. So it's scientifically proven ways. I'm like, I literally read it because I can barely like remember it. Scientifically proven ways to relieve anxiety and boost your mental health using your five senses. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times we are so disconnected. And by taking a minute, and I hate to say channeling your senses because that sounds a little woo woo, but it is really like being mindful of your senses because they can bring you back to your body and your mind. So, one of the things I love to do, especially when you say, like, how do you know you're disconnected? One of the things I use as my barometer is when I am so overwhelmed with work at my desk, and I always take a midday walk. It's something I just enjoy. It breaks up my day. I get to see that sunlight. Um, and sometimes I get really too busy, or I have a client who will schedule something over the middle of the day, which is really irritating, but that's the only time they can do it. So you got to do it, right? And then I'm like, I'm so busy. I'm looking at my calendar. I don't see a spot. And I'm like, right. And I'm like, that's when you need to take that walk. That's when you're like, you know what? Check. This is exactly when we need to do it because it's not going to get less overwhelming. But when you take that walk, you kind of give yourself that pause to reset. And when you bother to spend some time thinking about the senses. So when I go for my walk, you will take those deep breaths. You're like, okay, and then exhale, right? And you can feel your body literally like just feel how tense it is. And by just taking those simple breaths, it kind of just releases that tension, both in your chest area, your back, your body, releases that kind of energy that you're just carrying too much of. But also when you're outside, you smell, right? So when you're taking your deep breaths, you're smelling, you're feeling more grounded because you're walking, you're seeing what's going on. Some people will say that they can even taste the earth. That's a little too much for me, but you know, um, but you can hear the traffic, you can hear the birds. One of the things that I learned when I was doing forest therapy is that you kind of pay attention to sound you may not immediately hear if you're not paying attention. So one of the things that the person who was hosting it or directing us was like, try to hear the farthest bird sound. And then another one would be what is the sound you hear so closest to you? And it's like these little exercises that you don't even think about until you pay attention. It's like, okay, what is the farthest bird I can hear right now? Like just literally paying attention, you know?
Wow. That's so interesting, Megy. I really appreciate you explaining that and like giving that like example of an exercise that listeners can actually do, like right when they're finished, or they can just press pause and they can
Yeah.
do it as they're walking around. I mean, I think it's really interesting also what you said about how when you're feeling that intense overwhelm and I have so many things to do and like, how am I going to get them all done?
Yeah.
It's like that right there. That is the moment
Mhm.
when you should be doing it. Because I find, at least for me, if I do have that heightened sense of overwhelm, then I like it's diminishing returns on whatever I'm doing
Yeah.
because I'm just like, well, I'm not actually doing very well anyway. And so like if I take a
Mhm.
break, so I love that. And then I also wanted to just ask you kind of as part of this when you were talking to these scientists because there's so much conversation right now about trauma informed mental health and trauma informed therapy and things that are
Yeah.
this concept of being trauma informed. Did you find that people were
Yeah.
talking about that kind of stuff and like did that also like kind of inform what you were writing about, or like how does that, in terms of the mental health tips that you
Yeah.
got?
It's interesting that you asked that because there was one thing that definitely came to light that I had never considered. And it was in this form of journaling. And journaling to me is my form of meditation. That is in the mornings, I will drink my coffee and I will journal. That is my form of just like brain dumping, getting it all out on the paper. And one of the people I interviewed, oh my God, I forgot his name. Um, he's like, for some people that works, and for other people, if they write about their trauma too much, it becomes worse. Like there's a point of like, okay, if you want to write it down once and then just like let it go. Because if you keep revisiting it, it's actually going to make it worse. I had never considered that. It just never, and I don't want to say we all have that, I don't want to say that, but there have been situations in my life where that is something that I could have focused on, and I actually choose to ignore it. That's my way of monitoring my own issues with some stuff that happened in my past. But I can respect where he was coming from because I'm like, this makes sense. And Karen, you mentioned earlier, like the light therapy lamp may not have worked for you, or it maybe you didn't get that. And actually, that was one other person had said the same thing to me. It's like for them, that light was too much. It was too bright, and it actually made them anxious. And that's important to know because you also have to kind of know yourself. If there are people who will never journal, and that's just not what they do. You need to find what works for you, and there's 50 things in the book, so hopefully something will click. But I and I've tried. I have so many times tried. I can't do yoga. Like, you know,
Oh
I'm
my God.
laughing on mute. I love it.
I know. I feel like you said that with such gravity, like with such grief. Like, I can't, I just, no.
it
You've been
doesn't.
to
I
class.
can't.
No.
Yeah.
I love it. Also, just I love this part of this conversation because I do think there is this like, well, it's the TikTok trend. Everybody's telling me I need to do this thing for my anxiety. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's incredibly personal. Like you are the only you in the
Yes.
world. You got to find what works exactly like you said.
Yes.
What works for you specifically and not this peer pressure around like,
Hmm.
well, yoga's the thing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
ugh, I'm gonna bare knuckle it. Yeah, I am. I do really appreciate that. And I'm gonna try the light again in the winter.
I
You've
love it.
inspired me to try the light again.
I mean, it has been such a game changer for me that I can't even. I just wish more people would try. But then again, people, like I said earlier, yoga doesn't work for me. So people say that, oh my God, if you only had the right yoga instructor, or you know what I mean? And I don't want to say that because you. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you
It
know,
was also like on sale on Amazon. So I do actually legitimately maybe have a question. This is actually one of Katie's questions I really like. So, was there anything about this process, the writing, the research that surprised you about these concepts?
I didn't realize I would actually like floating. The sensory deprivation tank
Oh, the float like
was,
at a spa. Like I don't know if everyone knows
yeah,
what can you describe what floating
yes.
is?
A flotation tank is basically a pod that you go, you're an individual, so it's not like you're with other people. And it's a pod where you go and you float. And the reason, and I'll explain why. The reason I didn't think I would enjoy it is because I can't swim. And this flotation tank is not that deep. It's only about maybe, I don't know, 2, 3 feet, like maybe even 2 feet. Like it's not very, but it has like thousands of pounds of Epsom salt in it. So you basically are buoyed. It's like there's no way you can drown. And when I interviewed the person who is in the book, he's like, unless someone is literally like pushing your head down and immersing your entire face underwater, there's no way you can drown. It literally just kind of like makes you float. So the other thing is I'm actually claustrophobic. So I was not interested in being enclosed in some sort of a tomb, so to speak, with no light and no music, or like that did not sound attractive to me at all. But because I wanted to try everything in the book, he's like, no, give it a shot. So I'm like, all right, fine. So I did. And it was incredibly calming for a couple of reasons. The water is the same temperature as your body. So it's not like hot, like a spa kind of like heat, but it's also not cold. Like you're not doing a plunge. So it's just a nice, even water temperature. And then you literally just float for like an hour. You're just floating. And because you're by yourself, you can wear a bathing suit, you can be nude. You're by yourself. So it's not like anybody's going to see you. And the first time I did it, I had the lights on and I had the operator in the front desk leave a little bit of music. So you can do like a little calming music. You could turn it off. You actually have like a little knob. So, I mean, each place is different, but I had a little knob and I turn it off for a little bit. You shut your eyes. The second time I did it, I actually turned off the lights and turned off the noise. There's two reasons I liked it because first of all, there's nothing around you. You're by yourself. And it's just you and your thoughts, which some people might have issues with. But after a while, you just kind of like tune it out. Like you just are in a really calm state. But the second is because you're by yourself and it's quiet and your phone is in another space, right? It's like it's your stuff is right there. It's not like it's going anywhere. You're in a kind of like a private bathroom, so to speak, a really big bathroom. Um, nobody could talk to me. Nobody could text me. Nobody could call me. Nobody. I was not seeing email. You know what I mean? Like it was just quiet. Um, so I actually enjoyed it. So that was probably the most surprising thing is I didn't expect to see myself as somebody who wanted to do a float.
That's so cool that you tried every single
Like,
one of your tips. Like, I love
yeah,
that. I love that because I mean, you can like talk about exactly what that was like for you. And I mean, like the light
yeah,
therapy thing, it's not for everyone, but it's great that there are 50 things that people can try. I actually have done that flotation tank as well a few times. And I remember the first time I did it, it was so creepy. It was a very long time ago, but and I don't want to like not tell people to do it. It was like, I think the place was just the creepy part.
yeah.
Basically, it was like this tub that they lined with like a garbage bag, and then I just like laid down and the garbage bag was on me. So anyway, I
Oh,
probably should just not have said that because people listening are like, "What?" That's not what it is because the next time a couple times I did it, it was like fancy as heck actually. Like
yeah,
very spa like and like you're looking up and like there sometimes are like twinkly star. I mean, it's
yeah,
very very calming. It really like calmed my nervous system the next couple
yeah.
times that I did it. So yeah, no, I love that. But okay, another question that I have is or that we have is about like the concepts around mental health, Megy. Like I know this is broadly speaking, but sometimes they seem like they're only for people who are white sometimes. Like it seems like that's like
Mm,
a conversation. And I'm just wondering like are there any ways for people from diverse communities to like make some of these tips like their own if they don't entirely like identify with them, or like I don't know, like I mean I'm not, and this is partially like, you know, like questions from both of us. So Karen, chime in if you have any other additions to that.
Hmm.
Or like,
I
did you
think that,
find that? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, well, I mean, I will be honest, I was intentional with my sources because I wanted to have diverse sources in the book. So I've got, I not only like, because the other part is that there's a lot of female people who are in the space. So I was trying to find
Totally.
female, male, queer people, different races. Like, I really did try to have voices that may not necessarily be welcome all the time in that space, or they don't have a lot of opportunities. So there was one woman, I'll say her, Deshawn, who specifically creates opportunities for Black women to do yoga, and she does it at the Garfield Park Conservatory. And I loved her approach because she's like, so many times people who do yoga are white women. That's what we always see. And she really wanted to create a space that wasn't just that. So, and that's, I have her in the book, and she's remarkable. But I do think there is something to be said about finding community where you want to find them. So it's a hard question to answer because unless you're kind of looking at what are some things that are very specific, and I don't think there's anything in this book that is just specific to like white people or white women, which is
Totally,
usually
totally.
where you always see kind of see that space.
Yeah. I love
And
that. I
I'm
love the
speaking as a
example of
white
the,
woman,
yeah, totally. And same.
you
And
know.
like, and I think it's also like the idea of the yoga is also like a, it's true. It's that is what, you know, I don't know if you've seen Jessamine Stanley, I think is her name. And she's this incredible person who does a ton of yoga. And she's a Black woman, and she is like body positive, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but I mean, revolutionary, unfortunately, in that space.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like she has a book. I think her book is Yoga is for Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like
I've
she
heard
is like she is a big girl. Like she,
Mm-hmm.
and she,
Yeah,
I think it's called Underbelly Yoga is her brand. And yeah, she's great. And so
yeah.
thank you. Thank you for answering that. And I think the other, like the nuance I was trying to get at also is like, that like, if you're like this idea of cooking or the idea of senses, like there are things that are specific to different cultures that I feel like we can incorporate. Like Black people
Mm-hmm.
don't always have potpourri, but we might have incense,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, or if you have an altar to your ancestors, or like there's so
Yeah,
many culturally specific things that I think we don't always maybe think to make things culturally responsive if they aren't already,
yes,
right? And I
yes,
feel like I also want to encourage people, they just think like, oh, whatever. Like,
yeah,
no, there are ways to take all of the wisdom that you have and to make it
yeah,
work for you, whoever you are. And
for
I
sure.
do appreciate that you have like,
Yeah,
right, diverse sources in there too.
yeah. Yeah, and going back to the food, for example, like one of the women I interviewed, her name is Kamundi, and she's Indian. She's of Indian descent, and she lives in LA now. But one of her things is really to try to introduce more people to Indian foods and Indian spices and Indian herbs, and it's things that people don't really think about, but she's using her platform, so to speak, to help introduce other people who might, I'm not going to eat anything with curry. That's just not, and she's like, you know, let me introduce you to curry. Let me see, can maybe try it. It can
Totally.
elevate your dish, and maybe don't like, snub your nose at it. And,
Yeah, I
you
love
know,
the idea of using your five senses when it comes to mental health things, because I
hmm
don't think that or like helps, like, you know, aids for mental health distress, like to use five senses, because that's not necessarily always something I think about. Like, it's like, you know,
hmm
like eating curry, like the taste, like,
hmm
or the smell, or like, you know, I had definitely have had experiences where I will bite into something and my nervous system will calm down. Like it's just instinctual. And it's like it's probably different for everyone, but it's just such an interesting thing to kind of sometimes harken back to your childhood or whatever it is, or like what you said earlier about like walking and like listening and using those senses. I think that's something like I do listen to the Calm meditation app from time to time. We talk about that,
Mhm.
Karen and I do a lot. And like she does talk a lot about like what do you hear outside and just like allow it to be, and like it could be a screaming baby or a honking horn or whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
like it's just part of that, like, but it's also like just part of the, like accepting it as like not just like an annoyance but like accepting those things. So
Yeah.
no, I love that. I mean, I also I read your piece, Megy, in Reader's Digest, which I absolutely loved, and I'll link into
Oh my
in the
God.
description of the pod.
So funny.
It's so, yeah, I love this idea that decluttering your house or your apartment or wherever you're living, it can be a mental health hack. And also, you
Yeah.
mentioned a TikTok star named Casey Davis. I would love to just know what is the story around this, because I think some people think, okay, that's nice. Like, how am I, like, my house is a mess, and decluttering sounds like it's actually going to hurt my mental health because I'm just
Yeah.
staring at piles of shit. And so, like, how do you
Yeah.
actually turn that into an actual thing that can help your mental health? I'd love to hear about that.
Okay. So the reason that article came about is because I have a lot of my shit together. I my work stuff is very organized. I have like spreadsheets. I'm a list doer. My house is a fucking mess. Oh, I can't even say, can I say fucking mess? It's a mess. Like I cannot,
You can
this
say
is
fuck
not,
as many times as you'd like.
okay.
It's
It is like I cannot get a handle on my clutter in my house. It is like it doesn't compute. It doesn't align with who I am professionally, because professionally, a client's like, "Did you remember that article we did like 3 years ago?" Am I in politics? I'm like, "Yeah, I can get it for you. Like I know where that is." Ask me, like my house is a freaking mess. And so the Casey Davis. So I started, first of all, not a TikTok person, and
I was
somebody's
gonna
like, "Just
say, are
watch
you on
TikTok."
TikTok? Should people follow you on TikTok?
I am, but no, don't, because I'm
Okay.
like never gonna put anything out there. I just I can't have something else in my life. So my daughter was just like, but my book's coming out. You probably should do this, like the thing called book talk. I'm like, ah. So I started watching it, right? And then I see this Casey Davis person. I'm like, she's speaking my language. Her house doesn't look like a freaking, architectural digest background. You know what I mean? Like it was like this is a real person. She's got a sweatshirt on. She looks, you know what I mean? Like she looks like a real person. So I started watching her, and then I realized that she's like some mental health person. Like she's a licensed social worker. Like this is a this is her thing, and it's all about, like, she admits she has depression. She's like, this is sometimes getting out of bed is enough, and I'm like, yes, yes, that's could be enough. And so she's like, if I can't have a clean house and have children and do my job. It's like it's just too much. So she came up with this like tactic, to 4-step tactic, and she basically uses that to help clean. And she uses it as her way of kind of like getting some control over her clutter. And it made sense. It made sense to me. Like the idea of you go through, I'll give you the 4 steps in a like really high level. The first one is you literally go through your entire space, whatever room it is that you're in, and you literally trash anything that needs to be trashed. Because there's probably like, look, like this little thing, right? It's like it's trash. I just need to trash it. It's
Yeah.
Why is it there, right? The second one is, if anything has a home, you have to put it in its spot. Like you already know, it's like, okay, it's not in the right spot, you need to put it away. Then the third one is, if it doesn't have a home, then you put it in a corner. You go through and you're like, put it in a corner, just put it in a pile. Um, and if something needs to be like mended or whatever, you put that also in another space, right? Whatever. So the idea is that the first round will probably take care of like the surface issues. And then the second one is like, okay, you need to put it back where it belongs. Then you have to deal with the pile. But you know what? You don't. If it's enough for you that day, leave the pile as it is. And then you just figure it out later. And that, like, yes, that made sense to me.
That's amazing. And it was like there was a time limit on it though, right? Is that like, because people can just do this for 17 hours, if their house is a hot. Garbage
True,
dump.
true. I can't remember if she had a time like a half hour or an hour, but she had on her TikTok, it was like she had where she just kind of kept her phone, and you just kind of like, and it was just kind of satisfying to watch her. It's kind of like when you watch somebody working out on the screen, and but you're not doing it. It's like, oh, that looks good. But I usually try to do, if when I declutter, like tomorrow, oh my God, this weekend we have to go through our basement. We have to clean through our basement, right? So we're only giving ourselves an hour time limit, because after that, I just like, I don't want to waste my entire freaking weekend on cleaning my basement. But 1 hour will make a dent. So that's what we're gonna do. Um, but decluttering is, but the other thing that she actually talks about, and I do talk about this in my book, is I used to really look at chores as that chores. They're annoying, right? But since writing the book, I don't mind washing dishes, because now I'm like washing the dishes. I can feel the heat of the water on my hands, and I'm just like, okay, this is calming. And it sounds kind of corny, but it's a little bit of a shift in the way you kind of approach it that makes it more enjoyable. I am not, my kids are older now, so I don't have to deal with a lot of the mess that people deal with on a regular basis. So I'm saying this as somebody who's beyond a certain stage in her life where she's gonna be like, pick up your Legos, like, you know what I mean? But yeah. But even doing laundry, just the folding, feeling it coming out of the dryer, it's nice and warm. There is some comfort to it if you actually, if you're not stuck doing it. Like it, I don't know. Chores are a little bit harder for people, but just changing my mind shift has just kind of helped me accept the fact that it has to get done, you know?
Ooh, I feel like this is a great
Like,
segue to my question. Because
okay,
I feel like part of what you're also describing is like slowing down, right? Like if you are just like
yeah.
rushing and you're like, oh, I got to do the dishes. Oh, I got to do. But like, yeah, if you slow down and like open yourself up to it, like it is totally different. And like the link for me is I was thinking like, my question is like, is part of the calm of it, are you able to access the calm of that kind of activity because you're able to access the calm of the float tank? Or it's this idea that like as you meditate, as you build this into your muscle memory, like you have that well of calm, or you know what it feels like to be calm, and you can draw back on it later.
Yes, probably the latter. But here's the other thing that you just said that I think also is probably the case. It's the sense of slowing down. It's hard to really do dishes fast, or at least to do it well, right? And it's hard to fold laundry unless you're just like rolling stuff, right? And just like, there you go. So there is a sense of like, you have to do some of these things kind of slow in order for it to get done. So if you just kind of say, you know what, here's the other crazy thing that I didn't really think about, is that when I have to do dishes, let's say you have a whole sink of dishes and you have to do them, and it sinks in the dishes actually does drive me crazy. I don't like having a dirty sink or dirty dishes in the sink. So, but do you know how long it actually takes to wash a sink full of dirty dishes? About maybe 10 to 15 minutes. It's that's it. That's it. Yeah. So once I started to figure that out, I mean, we also have a dishwasher, so anything that can go in the dishwasher, I'll put in there. Or sometimes I won't. It just depends on if I'm in the mood to wash them. But my point is like, there are certain things that actually don't take as long to do if you think about it. And so I started testing myself, like, okay, this is, I'm gonna, I have a 15-minute break. What can I do? I'm gonna go do the dishes. And I can finish the dishes in 15 minutes. So just kind of giving myself that, it's almost like you're giving yourself a 15-minute break. And you just happen to be doing the dishes too. You know what I mean?
I love that. I love that. It's like just a different
It's like,
mindset. It's
it
just
is, and some people you can put a podcast on while you're doing it. You can listen
right.
to a book while you're doing it. There's other things and it's kind of nice. It's just
Yeah.
if you can kind of, again, I'm in a different space because I know I have friends who have very young kids and they barely have enough time for themselves. So I'm not saying like, "Hey, do the dishes, you'll feel great." Let's be honest. That's not going to happen. But or people who have caregiving duties and they're like, the last thing I want to do is chores.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess I wonder, just from a writer's perspective, Megy, I would love to know, like, how was this process of writing this book for you? Like, how did you feel throughout it? Like, I think for me sometimes, and I'm this is a total projection, but like it is the truth for my experience. Sometimes I write about mental health, and I find that then it doesn't solve my mental health issues. It's still, I still have stuff. I mean, we're all people in the world, right? Like, so it's like I still have stuff that I struggle with, but was there, like, can you talk about the process of this and what it was like for you? Because it's so interesting that it has, this topic is about mental health. Did you feel
yeah,
any, like, kind of lift in that way, or did it, like,
yeah.
what was that, was it really stressful, or like what was the process like when you were writing?
Okay, so I'll ask you a question. I hate to ask you a question from asking me a question, but you wrote a piece on knitting. I found it when I was actually working on the book
Yes, I
on
did.
knitting, and also not where I saw it in your it was last summer, and I'm like, oh, this is a good one. I'm going to try to include in the book. But you had talked about knitting. It was like, what was it? Where did you put it? Do you
Yeah,
remember?
so I wrote that piece for the San Francisco Chronicle. I write for their
Okay,
senior living section, and
okay,
the entire piece is about how, honestly, like, therapeutic it is to knit. And how a lot of people don't find knitting until they're, retired, because it takes a tremendous amount of time, but like there are
right.
knitting bees and circles and that kind of thing. And I interviewed a lot of people who, like, I mean, knitting is their life, and they're like 99
Okay,
years old and they feel like they're 40. So yeah, no, it was amazing. It was fun to write.
okay. So would you ever consider knitting?
No. I mean, sorry. That's a very quick question. I have no interest in knitting. Like, ooh, I don't know. Maybe my Chronicle editor hopefully will not be listening to this podcast episode, but like, I have no interest in knitting. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. Good
So,
question.
so to answer your question, there were things in the book that I included because they did work for me. But like I said, I included stuff like yoga that doesn't work for me. But when you ask the question about like how did I approach, like how it impacted me, I guess is the question. Um, I enjoyed it because it allowed me an opportunity to test new things like the flotation thing. Um, Also things like I don't cook, and like kneading bread was something else. Like things that I just don't do, or at least don't do on a regular basis. It made me kind of approach it in a different way. It also showed me there's stuff that it's okay to not like to do, you know? Um, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the process of writing the book. I had an amazing book editor who helped me through the process. It was a good experience. This is not it's my first book with my name on it, but I've ghostwritten books and I've updated a Chicago guidebook. So this is not my first foray into long form writing, but it is my book.
That's
And
so
that's what I'm
exciting.
most proud about is that this is something that I was able to produce because it was something that was really important to me. And I genuinely believe that there's information here that can help people if they bothered to read it. You know what I mean?
Who are some of your ideal readers? Like when you think about who you are writing this for, who are
Mm-hmm.
some of the folks that you feel like are really going to, other than our listeners, of course, who are really
Yeah.
going to get the most out of this?
I it will range from a college student who may be able to find some comfort in some of the ideas because they're going through the I didn't even think about that from a college student, but I've learned since the book came out that a lot of parents bought it for their college students because college students are this other group of kids population who are going through a lot right now, and a lot of them are because of COVID. They're COVID kids. They grew up in that space, and so they're anxious in a different way than any other generation. So I have college kids, and then I've got this other group that's like young parents or people between the ages of like 35 to 55. It seems like that group is really anxious. So we've got that group, and then you've got this other like almost an older group that is not really my audience, and part of it is because they've gotten to the point where they almost don't give a shit anymore. Like they're just like they figured out their thing. what makes them happy, and whatever doesn't make them happy, they're just like, why bother? They're also not, often if they're like retired, they're not in that corporate mindset of like, I have to, climb the ladder, or, what I mean? Their issues are more like retirement, making their retirement last until they die. Like there's just different things, and this is not really for them. So if I had to say, it's like more like a college age group, and then that 35 to 55 age group. One thing that's really weird is, and I don't know why my book publisher did this, they named it the book, and then they put in parentheses like self-help for women. And it's weird because it's not just for women. It's just weird. And it's
It's
odd
so
because I've
interesting to
actually
like
had,
categorize it that way.
like, why are you gendering this at
Right.
all? But
Right.
also, I've actually had friends who want to buy it for a male, and they're like, but it says for women. Is there something in there that they can't do? I'm like, no. But they're like, okay. And they like, they're they're wondering if I'm telling them the truth. Like, no, seriously, like my publisher for some reason put it in there. Like, I don't know, maybe it's SEO reasons. I don't know. So
Wow.
it's not
Yeah.
just for women.
No, totally. It doesn't sound like it's just for women. Yes. I'm sure you were thrilled when they gendered it. Like
It was just
that's
weird. It was just
yeah, that's
weird. I'm like,
frustrating.
you see it on the online ordering. I'm like, why is this just for women? But at
Oh,
that point, it's already out there, and
totally. Well, I hope there's been like an amazing reception. Have you been
yeah,
getting some
it,
feedback from some readers and that kind of thing?
yeah, it's been great. It's been good, and not only from a sales perspective, but what has opened it up is like I'm being asked to speak, to present,
That's
and
great.
that's really cool. That's really cool, and
That's
like paid speaking.
yeah, yeah.
Which is even better. Yeah,
That's
it's
so
just like that.
amazing.
I was not expect, which is weird because, like I said, I've ghostwritten before, and a lot of the reasons that people want a book is because they want to use it as a marketing tool. So I'm like, that makes sense. Why didn't I even think about it? It was literally like, duh,
That's
you
so
know?
great though. That's so wonderful because people when they see you
Yeah,
speak, and they pay to see you speak, like they also want more from you and so that makes so much sense to have then like a book and
yeah.
yeah, it's well, okay, so for people who are out there listening to this thinking like not only am I going to get this book, but I also want to follow Megy on all platforms, how can they find you, Megy? Like where are you? Are you on Instagram? Are you on Twitter? Are you on all the things?
Yes. So most of the stuff I'm spending is on Instagram right now and Facebook, only because those are really the platforms that I have enough time for. I am on TikTok. I am on Twitter, X, whatever you call it now,
Yeah.
but I'm barely ever on there anymore for various reasons. But I do have a presence there, but it's really Instagram. Instagram's really the place that I'm at.
And is Instagram like
I think
it's just Megy and then your last
my last name.
Karyides? Okay, got it. Cool.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll definitely put that
yeah,
in the show notes as well. But this is
yeah.
awesome. This has been
The other
such a
place
good
that people have been, yeah, I'm sorry. The only
no,
other
please.
place is like weirdly people have been finding me on LinkedIn,
Oh, okay.
which is that's an odd place. It's like I would have thought more people would have been finding me on like Twitter, but it seems like people have been finding me on LinkedIn. And the only reason I can think of is because of the presentations that people have been posting my book on LinkedIn. And so other people have been finding it. So I'm like, this is
Interesting.
interesting. That was not where, again, that's a kind of weird stuff that's been going on with the book. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, I think also in the professional
like
world, like people are struggling with their mental health and it's just they
the
want
burnout is so bad.
burnout is a huge
It's
deal
so
right
bad.
now. Absolutely. Wow. Well, this is amazing. Thank you so much, Megy. Thank you for
Oh
taking
my
the
God, you guys,
time.
thank you.
It's been so much fun. And yeah,
Thank
this is
you.
awesome. We will link all of this in the show notes so everybody can buy the book and support Megy on all platforms. And yeah, it was awesome.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. All
All right.
right. Have a great week. Bye bye.